When I was in college, 20 years ago, my suite mates used to talk about going on adventure walks. The idea was you leave the house with nothing but a quarter and just start walking. You go as far as you can go, and when you're done, you use the quarter to call someone to drive to your location and pick you up. There were fewer cell phones and more payphones back then. Late one evening, one of my suite mates, call him Mike, told me we were going on an adventure walk. I reluctantly agreed. He told me to change into dark sweatpants and a sweatshirt. I protested that I wouldn't have any pockets to carry my quarter, but he told me I wouldn't need it. In fact, he said, "Don't bring anything metal." I thought this was strange, but didn't argue. And so, a short while later, we were trekking across the campus under a full moon, with nothing but the clothes on our backs. We left campus and ended up at an outdoor shopping mall, maybe a mile from the dorms. The mall is built on a hill. There are several two-level parking garages built right into the incline, with shops on the top level and garages on the bottom. We were walking through the lower level of one of those garages when we noticed a gap in the cinder block wall built right up against the hill. It went from ceiling to floor and was maybe 2 feet wide. It looked like whoever built the wall had intentionally left a small doorway. Mike said we should investigate. I didn't want to, but he said it would be fine and walked into the hole. I didn't know what else to do, so I followed him. As soon as I stepped through the hole, I saw another person standing just inside. My heart skipped a beat. I thought it was a homeless person using the place as a makeshift home. I was afraid of being attacked for intruding, but Mike said, "Don't worry, he won't bother you as long as you're with me." And the guy ended up just kind of standing around and didn't interact with us at all. The area behind the hole was not finished in any way. The floor was just dirt. The only light was seeping in from the parking garage. I told Mike I didn't think we should be here and that we should just leave. He said, "Look, it goes further back. Let's see where it goes," and disappeared into the darkness, encouraging me to follow him. So, I followed Mike through the earthen tunnel. I could hear him just up ahead, but I couldn't see him or touch him. As I walked forward, the ceiling got lower and lower. At first, I was just crouching, but before long I was crawling on my hands and knees. I could still hear Mike ahead, encouraging me forward. Before I knew it, I was belly crawling into an ever-tightening space. It got to a point where I was clawing the dirt with my hands stretched out in front of me, trying to move forward another inch. I was suddenly worried I had gone the wrong way. I didn't hear Mike anymore. I tried backing up, but couldn't get any leverage to move backwards either. I felt like I'd wedged myself into my own grave. I was stuck in the darkness, buried underground behind a wall in the back of a parking garage. How could I have been so stupid to get myself into this situation? Just as I felt all hope slip away and consign myself to death, I felt a hand around my wrist and a sharp yank. I found myself being pulled through a hole into an open space by Mike. Now I was in a tunnel with concrete walls, with light coming from somewhere. I think there must have been electric lights, but they weren't bright. Maybe like emergency exit lights. I looked for the hole I'd come through, but I didn't see one in the wall. Mike told me that we couldn't go back that way anyway. Then he warned me, "If we run into anyone, do not let them see you. You aren't supposed to be here." Mike started leading me through the tunnels. I assumed they were similar to the maintenance tunnels that crisscrossed underneath our school campus, but I was kind of surprised they were also under this shopping center. I asked Mike if he knew where we were going. "We're going to meet someone," he said. "Who?" I asked. "Someone powerful," he said. We walked for about 10 minutes before entering a circular room. Mike suddenly looked worried. "This is where we were supposed to meet, but he isn't here. He isn't normally late. Something bad must have happened," Mike said. Mike told me we would wait for 5 minutes and then we would go back. We waited for a few minutes, and another one of my suite mates, call him John, walked into the room. Mike suddenly looked relieved. They stepped away from me and talked quietly for a bit, occasionally glancing over at me. I got the impression that neither of these people were the friends I lived with, and that they were only disguised as my friends. And yet, I didn't feel threatened by that. After they talked a bit, they walked over to me. John looked at me directly in the eyes and with a very serious expression asked, "Do you want to meet someone?" "Who?" I said. "He's the king under the hill, who is also known as the man in the mountain. But I must warn you that once you meet him, you can never unmeet him." With those words, I was struck by the idea that meeting this king would open a door for me and I would be aware of things that I wasn't aware of now. I also knew that those things would be aware of me as well, and that I would be opening myself up to danger that I was not currently exposed to. I felt a deep sense of dread and fear and could only give one answer: no. As soon as the word left my lips, I felt all of the energy drain out of my body. I could barely stand, let alone walk. My friends got on each side of me, put my arms around their shoulders, and started supporting me on the way back home. I had a need to get out of those tunnels and asked them if we could walk back up above. They tried to explain to me that the tunnels were the most direct route back home and that if we went topside, we would have to cut back and forth to get back home. I guess I accepted that answer, but I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember returning home. In fact, I had completely forgotten the entire adventure until 3 years later. I'd been reading White Wolf Games' source book for the dreaming and fell asleep totally believing in Fairy. I woke up the next morning absolutely convinced that the story I just told was a real memory, and I absolutely could not understand how I could have forgotten it. I also had a sense that I shouldn't tell the story to anyone. And I didn't, for several years. But over time, the memories started to fade. I don't even remember it anymore firsthand, really. All I have now are memories of memories, and the story as I told it to myself over and over. The warning not to tell faded too, but now I've shared it with you in public for all the world to hear. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the anonymous Reddit user who agreed to share this creepy true story. I just can't help wondering what would have happened if you had said yes instead of no and actually met the king under the hill. If anyone has any theories, I'd love to hear them down in the comments. In the meantime, I have many more true fairy encounter stories to share with you, so be sure to subscribe if you're new and like, comment, and share to help this new channel grow. I really appreciate your support. And if you have a true fairy encounter story to share, please send it to me. I would love to hear it. My email is in the description. Until next time, this has been a visit from your scary fairy godmother.